On a resumption of RC 446 of 2020, the witness, you are reminded that you are still under oath, Mr. de Klerk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
During the state's case, the state's ballistic expert ended up what in essence is 7 photographs, charts. In fact, he didn't explain what he found in these charts, simply to say that his conclusion was that the firearm fired the cartridge case in question. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You have the similar charts. I want you to go through them and give us your expert opinion.
I'll do that.
Whether this conclusion is correct.
First thing that you will notice on the court charts, I marked them 1 to 7, and I've examined all of them. And so I'll go through the first 2 court charts, court chart 1 and 2. Can I just ask the court indulgence? Is a problem? Can't seem to.
Do you want to enlarge it?
No, I can't. The problem with the court chart, or my, it doesn't want to play the way that it's supposed to play. Yeah, I've got it. Sorry, ma.
Yeah, it's saying the connection table.
It should. We should have a.
Quite an image problem.
Okay, here we go.
I'll do it this way.
Okay,
The
I
first-
just want to remind you that while I'm writing, I'm also going to have to look, so it's going to take a little bit longer, all right? Okay, thank you.
I enlarged it. And both photographs in the court charts depict the same comparison visually found. The only difference is that the second chart of the cartridge case was rotated and tilted slightly downwards, moving the striations. It's exactly the same mark. The chart indicates the best possible match viewed at this area by Lieutenant Colonel Magodeleka. By examining the striations as depicted in these charts found on the neck, one can clearly see distinctive striations that could have been used for a better comparison, which is also visible on the right-hand side of the cartridge. Examination of the striations that indicate similarities, is it clear that some of the striations are also different in size and depth, etc., and are indicative for an individual characteristics. If one look at the depth and size, I'm showing you at the bottom, as well as there at the top.
Please speak up.
There's differences. So it appears to be the same, but if you, by closer inspection, you'll note that there is slight differences. That's also visible. Then I go to court chart number 3 and number 4 and number 5. Again, we have the same thing with core chart number 4 and number 5. It's exactly the same mark again. That's photograph depicts in the two photographs. The chart indicates a possible match viewed at this area by the Lieutenant Colonel. The marks indicated appears to be similar, but by closer inspection one will notice that the angle of the marks are different, indicating a possibility of subclass characteristics, which Lieutenant Colonel Matuguleka did not consider in his examination. And he testified to the effect that currently in Port Elizabeth, the ballistics unit do not use subclass characteristics. The striations for a better same source identification are not considered or overlooked. We can't see this. You need to make notice of, if you look at this mark to that one, it's different in appearance. This looks more like an angle, which this one is more a little bit flat, straighter. If you look at the top one, the same appears. You've got like a curve. Curve is not there. If you look at this one, you'll see that the curve is also flat and it's not as steep as the other one. Examining the striations that indicate similarities, it is clear that some of the striations and marks are also different in size, depth, etc., and are indicative for individual same source identification and was not considered or used. These are all differences on the blue arrows.
So you say the blue arrows indicate all difference?
There's also differences, yes, which is not on the exhibit case. I just want to show the court there's a thin black line in the center. That's the center line of the microscope. When you look through, on the left-hand side is your exhibit, the one that was picked up, and on the right is the test that the colonel fired in this firearm. By comparing the marks found, it is very important that the marks must be considered as possible subclass characteristics and should first be eliminated before going over to the individual characteristics. Can I continue? Then we're looking at core chart number 6. Illustrate a striated mark that appears to be similar in size and depth. This striated mark was most likely caused by either the feeding or the ejection process. So in that process, this is when this mark was created. The test cartridge depicts a second striated mark, which is clearly different in size and depth on the exhibit. Two more striated marks are also visible, which again is absent on the test cartridge. There's two markings there as well, which is not on the test. That the striated mark was matched correlated by the manipulation. The reason being, the cartridge do not line up. The light source are most likely not at the same angle or height, casting shadows differently, causing the marks to appear similar. You can see it there at the top with a white arrow. So you have the appearance that the mark is the same or similar. Let me take the last core chart 7. It's my submission. The striated and impressed marks that appears to be similar. All those blue arrows, it looks the same. And it's my submission. This is the best core chart illustrating a possibility of a positive same source identification. However, these differences is also noticeable. All the yellow arrows, differences. All examiners considering world standards and protocols and work ethic, it is important to consider all aspects, class characteristics, subclass characteristics, and individual characteristics when comparing evidence relating to same source identification. I just need to clarify, the same source identification means that the tool that was used. In other words, we have the firearm, so the tool becomes the firearm and the cartridge is the object where the marks was transferred to. So you have a tool making the firearm and you've got a tool, firearm becomes the tool. Same source identification in one area using one tool would be a fatal flaw in the examination process as well as the conclusion. Now, since I've been in the ballistics unit, it was always said you need to follow up. Always. And the rule of thumb, follow up. In other words, if you find striations that's similar, since I've been at the ballistics unit from 1989, but it has been drilled in you, you have to have a follow-up. And the lieutenant colonel actually testified that he followed up, but he used the same tool, same area. And that's where the problem is. He had to find something else. Now, on the comparison, this is all the marks that you can find on a cartridge case. He testified that the firing pin is negative. Of the particular cartridge, he said it was negative. The extractor was negative, the ejector was negative, and the breech face mark was negative. That cartridge that he found was negative to the firearm. I divided, like I testified earlier, the chamber and neck mark, I divided them in two. He didn't use other chamber marks. He used neck marks, or neck chamber marks, which he made positive. Ejection port, he didn't use that. Magazine lips, he couldn't find or didn't use it, or the laden groove, he didn't use. So this is just an illustration to show the court. Out of all the marks that he could have found, he only used the neck chamber marks. Now, according to me, according to standards, world protocols, you need to follow up with a second tool. You need to find a second tool to make it, especially on firearms. At least two areas. Due to this fact, according to world accepted minimum standard based on evidence and testimony currently in front of this court, relating to same source identification, a positive identification cannot be made. If you go look at the protocols over this in the world, according to those protocols, this would warrant that you cannot do a positive identification by just using the neck marks. According to the evidence, all firearms were collected for examination and comparison. And Lieutenant Matagoleka could not match any of these marks to any other firearm internal parts. None, with the exhibit fired cartridge case. The assumption is now made that Lieutenant Colonel Matagoleka could not find any other individual characteristics of possible matches or non-matches, irrespective of how small or irrelevant they might have been. So if you go look at all the marks that was available to him, he made it negative. So if you go look at the explanation or elimination, the definition of it, he created and said it's negative. And out of those, all the other firearms, he couldn't find one striation, not one little line that matches up at all with any of the other firearms, which is the same. The class characteristics will be the same. It's the same firearms. The models are the same. The serial numbers follow each other. The last time we were in court, we asked permission to take photographs of the exhibit cartridge case. And I've taken this photograph myself, these photographs that I'll show now, and I used the Samsung S10 phone taking a photograph. And this is on the side of the cartridge case. This is the exhibit that was picked up. There's a mark. This was most likely produced when the cartridge was ejected. Let me go further. If you look here, this is there, you can actually see where it's marked. And here you can see other marks available. Here you can see the extract or ejector marks is here available. He made that negative. Then we're looking further. There you can see that mark again, a little bit clearer. Still marks here also. Here as well. This is the breech face at the back. And all I need to show the court, this is where the breech face markings tend to, sometimes you'll find it on, but this is very hard. It's harder than your primer. The primer is softer. Now, AFTE theory of identification, and the court don't have to write down. I'll give the court a copy of what I've got here. Pleasure. All I want to basically highlight is the theory of, I'm going down, the theory of identification as the pertains to tool mark enables opinions of common origin to be made when a unique surface contour of two tool marks are in sufficient agreement. Now, this document comes from the AFTE training manual from 2024. The sufficient agreement is related to significant duplication of random tool marks as evidenced by the corresponding of a pattern of combination of patterns of surface contours. Significance is determined by the comprehensive examination of two or more set surface contour patterns comprised of individual peak ridges furrows. It goes further and then it explains you need a second set of markings. He used the same tool or the markings that the tool that produced the markings that he photographed was one tool of the firearm. Then out of the video,
Just something. I just need to clarify something. Do you understand correctly what you're saying? You could not have made a positive match, correct?
that is correct.
Because
He didn't have the necessary follow-up.
he found
prototype-
neck marks on two different places instead of neck marks, plus maybe the extractor, the ejector, or something else.
That is correct.
And that is the international standard, is it?
That is correct.
And in any event, just go back. Your observation of the charts indicate that you shouldn't have even made a positive match on the neck mark.
There's a lot of differences which I would have. I didn't examine the actual cartridge, but there's definitely differences that's visible that would warrant not a positive identification. I would rather have made it undetermined because there's so many differences that I can also see. And that's where the subclass characteristics, you first need to go look at the subclass characteristics and which of those marks are unique to that particular firearm. And based on that, only then can you make an identification. But now it's same source identification, so you have one tool. To follow up and actually get a positive identification, you need a follow-up somewhere else, different area. You cannot use the same tool.
All right. Now, this you're putting up here appears to be a person standing with a fire.
With a firearm, that's correct.
Is this the flash?
That's my instructions.
All
So what
you conducted flash tests on a blank gun, is that correct?
That's correct, I did.
You made a video of these tests.
That is correct. I'll show the video a little bit
You
later.
play it fast, please.
Okay, can I just...
Fine.
It's a connection problem on our side.
Coming?
It's coming.
It's there.
Yeah, carry on.
Okay, playing the video.
Sound is very...
Yeah, sound is very well.
Got to put up the sound, please.
Well, I've tried. Let me try this. It's loudest that it can go, sorry. The video.
Right, take us through what you're doing there.
Okay, I'm explaining the cartridge. It's a 9 by 22 millimeter. It's a blank cartridge. You'll see now I'm going to the back and then I'm going to shoot. I think it's 5 shots and it's in the dark. There's also a backlight. Unfortunately, the camera that we use, but you will see the blank. I will make this available to the court as well.
Play it again.
Can you just play the firing information?
Try and pause it
Must I pause it?
on the flash.
I'm going to see if I can
Okay.
try it.
Past the string. All right, is that it?
Okay.
Tell me. It's probably a late question. You're comparing fingerprints. You probably have 7 points of similarity. Correct?
That's correct.
before an expert can say that it's the same.
That's correct. And normally what will happen is they will mark out 12 points and not just 7.
What happens in ballistics?
Ballistics, there's no limit. There's no limit. There's no, to say on a scale of probability, you've got to have 10 lines or 10 striations that's the same. There's no limit. If the mark is unique enough, it can be used.
But you require 2 separate places and 2 separate tools.
That's
before
correct.
You can
Yeah.
make a positive find.
That is correct.
Is that what you say?
That's yes.
And this is a standard that you say is universal.
That's correct.
Now, in appearance, we have the blank gun. We all agree in appearance that it's very similar to the original. In fact, it's the same.
That is correct.
It is available if my little friend for the state wants to pull it out and everything.
I can pull it out if you want. I've got photographs of examples as well.
Will you show us the photographs of the example? I think
He was going to pull out
my
the
lady,
firearm.
my lady's a bit nervous of the gun.
Not at all.
There we are. All right.
Now, all of these that you can have a look appears to be the real thing, but only 2 of them are real. The rest are all blank or airsoft guns. So this one,
Let me guess which ones are real.
this one is real. The second one from the left, and this one is real. This is only 2. What I would like the court to notice is that the carrier handle, the back of the stock, the A-frame at the front. And I've taken a photo, I enlarged this photograph just to show the serial number and the caliber. In South Africa, when they manufacture these are chambered for 5.56, but because of the law and ammunition, they put in 223 as well, because you can fire both of them, both of those calibers in this particular firearm.
Tell me, we saw when the colonel was firing tests with the real gun, it continued to jam.
That is correct.
Why was that?
Well, guess as good as mine, but probably either the ammunition was wrong that he used, or the firearm was dirty.
223 used in a 5.56,
Yes,
and the other way around, with that
same thing.
was a problem.
Yes, especially 5.56 fired into 223 caliber firearms. Yes, this is manufactured for 5.56, so I suspect that firearm was either dirty or the ammunition was not 100% correct.
Right.
I'm not clear on his explanation now, compared to saying you'll see printed on the enlarged photo 223 and then 5.56. Now, the explanation based on what he said there, I'm not following you. Or him. Let me put it to you that way.
It was about the test done by the colonel.
I know now he's saying that about the test of the colonel, but his evidence prior when testifying about the enlarged...
He was just saying that he's taken a close-up to show that it's a 5.56.
South African made ones is showing, and that you can use the 223 and 5.56. No, I can't bring that to his explanation now. Maybe if he can just...
It can be fired in both guns. It's just that
Yes.
it does cause a problem in the one type of gun. It can... Seen when nothing turns on. Nothing turns on. I shouldn't have even raised it. Nothing turns on. All right. The ejection of the cartridge case. You also did tests on that, is that correct?
That is correct.
And if you can put those photos up of the RC stadium. Yeah, this is it. we apologize for the left-hand photograph here, but we struggled to reduce it. This is the witness who was pointing out where she found the cartridge case.
That is correct, and you can see there where the X is marked.
And we've established that where she was standing would have been in fact a tent
That is correct.
for food.
And that is the end of the stage. If you look where she was in the evidence, this was given to her, the photograph, and she marked out the X and said this is where she found. Now if you compare that to photograph 8,
I think it's common cause, and it's not in dispute obviously, that the firearm ejects to the right, and I can't recall the exact meterage. I don't think that was a challenge.
it's less than 2 meters to the right. To the right.
So, if that cartridge case was there, had been ejected from the firearm would have to be within a 2-meter radius, so that's not.
That is correct. I would have expected if somebody was standing here firing, that you'll find the cartridge case should probably most likely be either to the left, or if you look at the,
Of course, the other possibility is more than likely probable that that cartridge case was not fired there, but somehow landed up.
that's also true.
Alright. There's not forgotten anything. Think
No,
of
not
anything?
that I can think of now.
Thank you. Let's just go back now to your report. Sorry. Paragraph 6 and 7. Relate to a test that you were requested to do on
That is correct.
the same firearm SP A 237, 245, 246 and 248.
That's correct.
The one in question, the
239.
is which one?
Um,
No, the one we've got here imported to residue file. What is the number again? Just
I think it's 239
239.
slash 14.
Isn't it
248. No, it's 248. It's supposed there's a typing error in here.
So 245, 246 and 248.
Yeah,
Was the other one not 247?
it can be.
All right. You tested these firearms, is that correct?
That is correct.
Nothing turns on it in this case. And you later explain the method used for testing.
That's correct.
Explain the microscopic examination in paragraph 12. And there you point out
Yeah, all the markings,
why don't
yes.
Ballistic people ever put numbers on your page?
Yeah, we don't.
Anyway, I'll show you. This one was right at the back of a PMP 223 Remington. You point out where marks are found on the cartridge case of that.
That is correct.
And then you come to your conclusion that you've already testified about. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. You confirm this report.
That is correct.
You confirm that the presentation you've been given before court is part of your evidence, and you can put it onto a USB for the court
That is correct.
to watch in random whenever they want.
That's correct.
Mr. de Klerk, the blank firearm is available in court. You've examined it, is it correct?
I've examined a blank. I don't know if I examined this one, but yes.
And the one that's here fires in the manner that you showed in the video there, is that correct?
That is what, the serial number. I've actually written down what it was.
And if you have regard to what you saw on video and the test that you've done, would you agree that the blank firearm looks exactly the same as the actual firearm?
That is correct.
And that it would be very difficult to discern the difference from a distance between the real and the blank firearm.
That is correct.
Now, when you did your testing on the actual Norinco rifle that was there, what was the maximum range that it could eject once it ejected the...
Still stayed within 2 meters from where you were firing.
So it
To
was-
the right, about let's say half a meter to a meter, and 2 meters away.
So it's to the right, backwards, or to the rear, with a maximum of 2 meters, is that correct?
That is correct.
Now you're explaining the difference between 223 and 556. I put you that there's a very, very small difference that one can't even see with the eye. If one looked at the rounds unmarked, would you agree with me?
That is correct.
For an expert like you, the difference would be the primer. One is a burden primer, the other is a boxer primer, but you don't see that from outside of the cartridge.
No, that's normally your 556, your military ammunition will be a boxer, or burden, which has 2 little holes, or flash holes on the inside of the cartridge. And your reloadable, your 223 Remington will have 1 flash hole or 1 hole at the back.
But to a person looking at the rounds, they look exactly the same.
Look the same. If you don't read the head stamp and it says 223 Remington, on your 556 you will have a date and a number. That's basically all. It's going to have 2 sets of numbering.
And the actual size is minimally different that you won't see with the natural eye, so much so that you can fire them, in most instances, interchangeably between the different firearms.
You can't fire them in different fire or different caliber fire. 223 you can fire in 5.56, but the other way around you will tend to find that if you shoot 5.56 into a 223 chamber, it will get stuck most of the time. It doesn't happen always, but it can happen. We found that there is problems, especially if you differentiate between the calibers.
Yeah. You've been in court, you've watched the evidence, you've participated since the beginning, and I just want to put the following objective factors to you. This alleged incident took place at a packed stadium. Would you agree with that?
That's correct, yes.
There were many eyewitnesses present for this celebration. You're aware of that.
That's correct.
Not one of those eyewitnesses complained of any firearm being discharged. Would you confirm that?
That's correct.
Only above that, there's been no complaint of anybody feeling that they were in danger of having been shot on account of a firearm being discharged in a public area. Would you confirm that?
That's correct.
You've seen the video, you've watched the shooting. You don't see anybody running for cover, do you agree with me?
That is correct.
Your point?
That is correct.
We've been here for years now. We haven't heard of one eyewitness that watched the actual shooting and expressed any fear. Even the gear house people that were there never expressed any fear of having been struck. Would you confirm that?
That's correct. Confirm.
Over and above that, and this is where I'm going to come to your field of expertise, we've heard that there are 5 SAPS VIP Protection Service members on the stage at the stadium at the time. You've spoken in your report of your extensive experience in the SAPS. What were they required to do if they were there and actual rounds had been shot at the stadium?
Well, they were in charge, according to my knowledge, is they're in charge of a VIP protection unit and was allocated to Mr. Malema to look after him, or accused number 1, to look after accused number 1. And their objective is to safeguard him, but if there was any firearms fired, I would have expected the police to actually intervene.
By intervene, you said put an end to it and take the firearm away and possibly arrest people if they...
That is correct.
Now, we've heard from the investigators that those police officers made statements But there's no mention of anybody having intervened or done anything to resist any firing of a firearm in a public area. Would you confirm?
I've had access to the statements, yes, I agree.
Now, drawing on your last slide that you showed us, those two slides together, with the point where the cartridge was found, which was put to you by my learned friend, was under a fruit tent. You're aware, having watched the trial, that there was no damage to any of those canvases or tents, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there any possible explanation for how that cartridge would have got there at that distance and with all those structures in place?
There's only two possibilities that I foresee. First of all, that it was moved and dropped inside the tent. And the second option is when the stage was broken up, it could have been kicked up to the point where they found it. That's also a possibility.
You speak of two possibilities. I want to put to you, so if it had been there before the celebration, it would also be a possibility.
That's also a possibility, yes.
If it was placed there after the celebration, is another possibility.
It can be planted as well, yes, I agree.
Put somewhat differently, it's not possible for you to say when that cartridge was actually placed there. Do you?
No, you cannot determine that.
But one thing's quite clear, and that we're going to put to you, so is a person standing on the stage where you saw accused number one, if such a person fired a real bullet with a cartridge that was then ejected, it is not possible for it to have traveled to that distance purely from being ejected.
No, it's not possible.
You're also aware that there were no touch DNA traces or fingerprints that link any of the accused to any of these firearms or ammunition. Is that correct?
I don't know that, but I can't dispute that.
You also have heard that there's never been any powder residue tests conducted on any of the accused to place them on the scene or in the vicinity of a firearm being fired.
That is correct.
You were also present when Sergeant Becker explained how he reconstructed the scene to ascertain where the spent cartridge had been picked up. You were present in court.
That's correct, yes.
Was it in any way possible for that cartridge to have got you there on his reconstruction from being ejected by a rifle at the time?
No, it's not.
So now I be permitted to turn to both my clients, the accused, and my expertise to see if they have any other. Thank you, sir. No further questions. Thank you.
This stage, it's a late hour. I also guys to consult with Mr. Ballistic as well. He's present relating to the evidence. If we can roll him in until tomorrow.
I've got no objection. Only fair.
There is also, it's only fair because we need to anticipate this. We're not going to.
Or any of this evidence.
Would your worship like us to download this for you and give it to us? Or after the...
Even if it's after, I'm more interested in the content of his evidence than the actual visual. That's where, yeah, I would appreciate any. Both of them would be wonderful. Okay, may we just pause the record, please? Seems as if Advocate Caesar is in great distress. Go, go. Please, Mr. De Klerk, you can stand down because when we come back, we will just do the postponement. I know Advocate Caesar is not here presently, but with Advocate College, yourself, and Advocate Oudis, Mr. Levitt, I wanted to say Lewitt, just I just want to discuss time frames with you for tomorrow, because obviously this matter, I was running 2 courts today. So I want to know the time frames for tomorrow so that we can be on the same page. Okay. But if Caesar is back, just shout and then I'll come. Thank you. We'll just adjourn for him. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Accused 1 and 2. The matter then postponed for cross-examination by the state until tomorrow, 19 June. We will commence in the same court, Regional Court 4, at 9 a.m. Thank you, bail extended. Thank you. You may take a seat or stand down. Sorry, Advocate Caesar, while you were out, I just asked to have a brief word with parties so that I know as to how to run my role for tomorrow. Because of today, I juggled, so I just need to know how much I must juggle tomorrow. Okay. Thank you. Court will adjourn.
Where's the extension? Where is it? This one. This one looks like an extension. Bongi? This one. This one. This one. Bongi? This one. Which one is this? Is it Bongi?